You need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
And welcome back to the latest greatest episode of the 7 Points Podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host Quinton Crisco. And very special guest tonight as we continue to break down the different divisions in the league. We are doing NFC East, joined by recurring guest Sam Finkel, Sam_Finkel on X.com, the everything app. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here again.
Yeah, we're excited.
As Sam mentioned to me when I asked him if he wanted to come on again this year, he called it last year. He said Super Bowl or bust for the Eagles, and, here we are. They got the trophy. I was there at the parade. I saw it myself. They indeed have that trophy.
They won the Super Bowl and then got rid of their weak link at offensive coordinator, and now they're just going to keep on rolling, I guess.
Oh, I don't know if it was quite a weak link for sure. That offense, did some damage, especially in that Super Bowl. So start right there.
Sam, would you my takeaway from the Super Bowl was yes, the offense was good, but do you think, in my mind, the defense is what won that game more than anything? Would you agree with that? Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's a special group of personnel, coaching. It just is it was the perfect situation. Fangio's scheme had been there, obviously, before Fangio was there, but having the mastermind and him being able to, tailor the personnel to what they're best at was just incredible, honestly. And we saw what really the peak of the defense can be.
The pride of Dunmore, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Now, when we're talking about coordinators, so obviously you guys have an offensive coordinator change. Kellen Moore's out the door. Kevin Patullo, I believe it is in that seat now. What are your expectations for what that means for the offense going forward here?
Yeah, I don't think that much is going to change, honestly. And I kind of hope that not much changed. I mean, every coordinator kind of has their own spin and, their own flow of game, just how they want to run a game and have certain plays. But it's Jalen Hurts' offense. They're going to run pretty similar things, I'd imagine, that he's comfortable with, that he does well in. And so I wouldn't expect too much difference between, this coordinator to the last one.
Jalen Hurts, top 30 quarterback in the NFL.
See, I knew you were going to bring that up. And one thing I'll say is it doesn't matter. See, here's the thing. The rankings don't matter. He is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, one. And two,
I mean, brother, we're on the same page here. Top 30.
Listen, he is number one in work ethic, though, and attitude, and that's all I care about, honestly. At the end of the day, I'll take a quarterback, that has some limitations. And every quarterback in the NFL pretty much has limitations, and Hurts does have limitations, and that's fair. But somebody with his attitude, I'll take that anytime, for sure.
Yeah. Him and Nick Foles.
It might be the most motley crew of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks for any team. As much as Hurts is having a better career than Foles did on the generalized state of it, but that's not, those two guys don't scream these quarterbacks, these two are gonna do it. But I want to say one of our guests who we had previously for the Bears episode, Danny Meehan, who does a lot of draft content, Jalen Hurts was one of his guys going into that draft class, and he said exactly what you just said. He just thinks he's built different mentally, from the work ethic standpoint, from the leadership standpoint, that is something you just buy into when you find it. And clearly the Eagles did that correctly.
You get a guy like that with Howie Roseman, and you'll win a lot of Super Bowls.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that he is the way he is mentally, but also how he structured his agent team and how he told the agent, I just want to get a deal done that helps my team build. It was a very Tom Brady-esque attitude to roster construction. So if you have a quarterback that's willing to, make some sacrifices, and still, honestly, he was the number one paid quarterback for that short period of time. And I believe it was right before Lamar reset it, and it has since reset after that. But he was really willing to structure the deal creatively. And when you have a creative mind like Howie Roseman, it works. It's a perfect combination, like you said.
Now that's an interesting point, because I mean, history does kind of show us that outside of maybe some of the Mahomes Super Bowls, or maybe just one of them, teams who win the Super Bowl tend to have a surplus value at quarterback in some manner. even when the Eagles won it previously with Foles, it was a Wentz rookie contract and Foles on a backup contract, right? Like
Absolutely.
they had extra value from that QB position. Tom Brady, all those years, was taking discounts, was doing stuff to make sure that he could keep getting back there. And even I feel like Mahomes currently, his deal is kind of a nice deal for KC at this point.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz basically won MVP.
Yeah, I mean, he would have had he not torn his ACL against the Rams. That would
Been saying it for years.
that he would have won MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was special that year. It was a shame what happened for him personally, but obviously, you know, winning the Super Bowl, it's hard to look at that negatively.
Now,
Yeah.
Sam, we missed this when we started the show. But for any Eagles fans who are watching, where can they find your work?
Yeah, so I do a lot for Inside the Birds. I actually, it's kind of funny. Like I kind of did my first podcast with you guys, and I guess after that they've been putting me a lot on podcasts. I used to do a lot more of the writing, but I've been doing a lot of podcasts. So I have my own segment called Inside the Data, and I do that with Jeff Mosher. But I also do some podcasting with Eagles Eric on the Eagles Edge.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that we were able to help kickstart your podcast journey, because that's that
Hell yeah, pioneers.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, you guys really did, and I'm very appreciative of that.
We appreciate you.
But so I guess let's go through some of the changes on this Eagles roster. I just have some of the big ones outlined here, like Josh Sweat gone, Milton Williams gone, Mekhi Becton gone, Darius Slay. I didn't even realize Slay was gone until the other day, or like a week or two ago, when I noticed he was on another team when I was making one of these graphics.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Gardner Johnson gone. How do you feel about how they've restocked it with guys like Ojulari and Uche and Pryor and maybe like a Kenyon Green in there?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's kind of a theme with some of the players that they kind of added more so than they've subtracted. The theme is either, you know, unproven guys or guys that had, you know, times of success and have sort of regressed or have these labels of not doing well. So, like, for instance, Uche had that incredible year and then kind of went a little downhill. You have Matt Pryor, who actually, you know, played a little bit and, you know, bounced around a little bit. You have Kenyon Green, who was a first-round pick, who was labeled a bust and did not look good at all for the Texans. And so you kind of have that theme, and I feel like that's kind of where we're at based on how the roster is constructed right now and preparing for the future. On the other hand, the subtractions hurt a lot more than I think fans are willing to admit. Guys like, first off, Milton Williams, who was just a game changer, an athletic freak at the defensive tackle position. It's really hard to replace that. Guys like Becton, who, again, you know, was labeled, you know, a bust at one point in his career, but, you know, revitalized himself at the guard position. I believe we talked about him actually in the guard position early before that even happened when we were doing this last year, which was kind of fun.
He was so fun as a rookie, and then he got fat.
Yeah. He did have a great rookie season and just kind of went downhill, and there were high hopes for him with the Jets, and it was tough. But again, I think that the biggest, that the CJ Gardner-Johnson really hurts in my mind. That move, I understand why they did it, but I think it might have been premature. Personally, I think they could have had him for one more year and still, you know, able to get as much value out of him as possible. But I understand you have to give some deference to Howie Roseman at this point, and I will. So,
all right, yeah, let's jump into some of the details on this offense here. And so, one thing that you mentioned to me when I sent you that first graphic was that Shipley might actually be the running back 2 over AJ Dillon, who came in. So what's kind of the thought process with that? Is that be more of a 3-down kind of guy, or is it something different?
Yeah, so that's just like some rumblings that, you know, have been speculated. Again, like, it's really hard to get fine detail until we start seeing them actually in training camp and, you know, through the preseason games and honestly throughout the season. But I know they like Shipley a lot. From everything I heard, they really like Shipley and they feel like he can handle it well. And you look at AJ Dillon, who's, you know, recovering from a pretty rough injury, and, you know, the skill set is, again, I think you're right. I think Shipley is able to step in that 3-down role a little bit better. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually shakes out. But I wouldn't be surprised if Shipley gets more opportunities, if they're, rested, because you can't play Saquon every single down. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shipley gets those opportunities before AJ Dillon.
What was Dillon's injury?
I believe it was something with a nerve injury in his shoulder.
Okay.
And it took him out for the season, but I don't
I remember him not really playing last year. I didn't actually ever notice why that was.
Yeah, it was a neck stinger injury, and I think it was his nerves in his neck.
Okay.
It's not promising, but I mean, listen, he had the year off. His body had some time to recover. You didn't have the wear and tear of last year, so I mean, there can be some optimism there, and that's probably a better, more positive outlook on that injury for sure.
Okay, and so moving to the wide receiver spot, I have a question for you, but I want to pull something up to give you some baseline for it first, I guess. So I'm talking about blue chip players, and at wide receiver, I waffled back and forth as to whether I thought DeVonta Smith was a blue chip player. And the guys I've narked as blue chip so far this year are Drake London, Jamar Chase, St. Brown, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Puka, Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, JSN, Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Terry McLaurin, and Malik Neighbors. One, would you call DeVonta Smith a blue chipper? And two, do you think he belongs with that group of players?
Absolutely, to both of those. He is the most underrated player on the Philadelphia Eagles, probably. And it's crazy to say as a starting receiver that he's one of the most underrated players. Honestly, maybe even the league. His ability to contort his body and make these incredible catches, it's so hard because his frame is so small, and like there are limitations to him, but what he does so well, and you can play him anywhere on the field. His slot percentage went up a lot last year. He to me can do anything a receiver can do, and honestly better. His contested catch and honestly tough catches, like he just makes crazy catches. And AJ Brown is known as the contested catch guy because that's kind of a hallmark of his game, that and run after catch. But what DeVonta Smith, he's almost like a possession receiver, but plus. And you don't really think of him as a possession guy because he does so much more. And to me, that just elevates the team so much.
Okay. And like I said, I could kind of go either way on it, but I was just like, I've already got a ton of receivers as blue chips. Like, can I add another? But like, I feel like he's in that tier. And the thing that always stands out to me with DeVonta Smith, whenever I notice like a big play from him, is how late his hands are. Like, he doesn't give the corners anything which in zone coverage isn't as important, but like against man coverage is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
same question. Your list is really good. I really like
thank you.
Receivers. I would include DeVonta Smith, but that I do think you have pinpointed.
I think where he struggles on the blue chip aspect of things is just opportunities. I mean, just about every single person you named is a one.
Sure.
And having A.J. Brown, I mean, you're just not going to get the same opportunity, especially when you have Saquon running the ball like he does, the running ability of Jalen Hurts, a good tight end. I mean, I think athletically he's a blue chip, but I don't know if you could put him in that category just because the numbers probably aren't going to be there. So, I mean, like you replace Ladd McConkey with DeVonta Smith in that Chargers offense, and he's much better in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, I think.
I agree with that. I think that's also a very fair statement, and I think you qualified that really well by saying that athletically he absolutely fits the criteria, but production-wise, I can understand why there would be hesitation, and I totally understand why you wouldn't have him on the list. So.
Well, and frankly, for my blue chip list, I don't care that much about production. Like, it's not that huge a deal because I want difference makers. Like, difference makers who haven't quite hit the production, I can live with, but I want guys who are going to be multipliers for the offense when I'm talking about them as a blue chip player, guys who make up for weaknesses elsewhere on the roster.
Did you say Brian Thomas was on the list? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, good, because that's a guy that I think fits that mold really well.
Love Brian Thomas.
Yeah. Now, so in a similar vein, but in a much shorter list, is Dallas Goedert a blue chipper, and does he belong with Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers, and George Kittle as the only 4 blue chip tight ends I have right now?
I'd say probably not, but he's right under it.
That's tight end is so weird. There's like
So
this
weird.
tiny elite group, and there's like a giant, like they're almost there group.
And I think he fits in that category much better. What he does well, he does really well, but he is somewhat limited too. And like a big part is he's missed a bunch of games recently, which is a little bit concerning, especially because if you look at the rest of that tight end room, I don't feel that great about it, honestly. So, I mean, Calcaterra is a great pass catcher, but his blocking is still want more out of it. And then
an offense that's going to run as much read stuff as the Eagles, like the blocking does really matter for a tight end in this offense.
Absolutely. And although I was on another podcast and they were saying that one of the pros of having Calcaterra on the field is you get that horizontal stretch. You can run a lot more plays of tight end screens and ways to just spread the defense out. You feel comfortable in 12 personnel with that. But at the same time, you want some guy that can block too, or can block well too.
It helps when you have Mailata and Lane Johnson as your bookends
too.
True, a lot. Now, sticking with the pass catching aspect here, say that AJ Brown or DeVonta Smith, God forbid, go down, or even Jahan Dotson here. Who in the second or third string do you feel like could step up into a role and really grow in?
You know, my answer probably is going to surprise you. And it's a guy that was kind of talked about that the Eagles really love, but I haven't heard much buzz on him. It's Danny Gray. And I think that if he makes the team, he could force a role.
That's the guy I was looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I loved what I saw from him, just from some of the 49ers clips I saw, and I think that he is an interesting player, and I think he easily could carve. I think it's a pretty weak receiver room outside of the top 2 guys, and I say that with a heavy heart because Jahan Dotson is a friend of mine. I coached him for a little bit, which was it. He is a great player, but again, he's not DeVonta Smith or AJ Brown. But I think Danny Gray could easily force a role for sure.
Okay, and that's
Danny Gray, SMU.
Yeah,
same guy.
His college tape, his speed was just different than everybody else. And like I remember asking, we had Jeff Crisco on the pod for a 49ers preview, and we asked him like, why doesn't Danny Gray get any run here? Like, what is happening with him? He was like, I think a 3rd round pick for them or something, and he just like disappeared. He was like, oh yeah, that was a Trey Lance draft pick. He just runs go routes basically, and Brock Purdy can't throw those routes, so he doesn't see the field. Like, was basically
Jalen Hurts can.
We got so
Cowboys legend Trey Lance.
That's right. But let's get to the offensive line here a little bit. And
sure.
Frankly, I mean, I think it's still probably the best offensive line in the NFL. I'm not sure there are many other lines where I have 3 blue chippers on it, and where I feel like I'm not taking any chances by calling Mailata, Dickerson, or Lane Johnson blue chippers. I think it's just a fact. But at right guard, you have that hole where Mekhi Becton used to be. That's a big hole. That's like a 360-pound hole right there. Matt Pryor,
and literally.
Yeah. Matt Pryor has the size to fill that hole. I'm not sure he has the athleticism to fill it as well. Tyler Steen, I don't think he has the size. I've always had some questions with Steen's demeanor as a guard.
Sure.
Like, I remember his Alabama tape. He played like a tackle. He was a tackle, but he played like a tackle. And I always say, like, when I'm watching college tackle tape for guys who might kick inside, I want to see them playing tackle like a guard. Like I want to see that nasty streak. And I didn't feel like that was quite there, which put him in a tweener stage for me. But how are you feeling about Steen versus Pryor versus maybe Kenyon Green kicking in there? Like, what's your view on that?
So you might have saw me look into the side. I was 100% listening to, but I actually just did a podcast about Steen's play. So he has 221 snaps in his NFL career. Guess how many sacks he's let up?
221.
0. He hasn't let up a single sack in his NFL playing time. And mind you, again, he was surrounded for most of it with the guys that you mentioned, but not all of them. I mean, he did struggle against the Giants, but he was with a backup offensive line at that time, and that was the Week 18 game. But at the same time, I feel pretty comfortable with Steen, and the reason why is he just needs to play at league average. If he can play league average, you can fill that hole pretty easily and feel comfortable with everybody else. But I don't think he'll be league average. I think Stoutland is really good at getting the best out of what the players can do. So I think that Stoutland, we'll train him up. It'll get him in a good enough spot where, and the talent he's surrounded by will, elevate him. And because of those factors, as long as he's league average, I mean, that hole is filled and you feel pretty comfortable with it. And if not, you have two other guys so that you could throw there.
Well, yeah, and frankly, I mean, I watched a lot of Matt Pryor last year when he was on the Bears, and honestly, I thought he was going to get a starting job somewhere this year. Not as good starter, but there's enough holes on the offensive line around the league where I was like, someone's going to pay Matt Pryor to start for them because he had a pretty solid year last year for the Bears. Run blocking is always going to be suspect because he can't move his feet, but pass blocking in a phone booth, he can't move his feet, but it doesn't matter because he's so damn wide. Like, he's such a clean pass blocker as a guard that I thought he'd get a gig somewhere. So I think that sets a high floor for the position there as well.
And that's really all you need, to be honest with you. And I feel like if you need to put him in, you feel comfortable with it because he's a veteran. And I actually think he's a dark horse for the starting spot. Like, I would not be surprised if they decide Steen needs a little bit more time to develop. And, they just say, Pryor, you're capable. We can throw you in. We know what we're getting out of you. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Pryor wins the job just because of that.
Yeah. Well, and I think Steen also, he has the tools to be. Sure. My entire question with him was always about demeanor. It was never, he had the tools to play guard in the NFL. I think that was clear. Now, Lane Johnson, how much longer can we expect this level of play from him? Because 1 or 2 years ago, I started to write him off, and I've just been blatantly wrong about that.
I think this might be his last year.
I would say it this way. In terms of physical decline, I don't think we'd have to have that conversation for a little bit. But in terms of him wanting to walk away, like saying, I've had a good enough career. I want to save my body. I've won one Super Bowl and maybe next year, maybe 2 Super Bowl. Who knows? I called my shot last year. I can't say we'll save that for later.
Let's give him 5 Super Bowls.
Yeah, shoot. Why not? Then we could catch up with your former team potentially,
LeBron's calling. He has some issues with that statement, but anyways.
But regardless, I think that he doesn't have that much else to prove. I mean, he has 2 Super Bowls. He has done. He's been at the top of his position for a while. I think he could be physically capable of playing for another 5-6 years, possibly. I know that's absurd to say, but he is an elite level, generational talent. But I don't think he will play 5 to 6 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, that makes sense to me because I look at his body type and he's not quite built like a Jason Peters, who is just the natural for the position. Absolutely. It's he's definitely a bit lankier, which means there's probably a lot more maintenance that goes in his day-to-day routine. Not that there wasn't for Jason Peters, but I feel like Jason Peters came out of the womb 300 pounds, and I'm not sure Lane Johnson was the same way.
No, I mean, listen, it's interesting you bring them both up because neither of them played O-line, starting.
Right.
So both Lane Johnson was a quarterback, and and Peters was a tight end. So it's really interesting that 2 of the best offensive linemen in Eagles history didn't necessarily play the position to start.
Wait, did Johnson not play tight end? Did I get that wrong?
So he played quarterback first.
Okay.
And I think he was actually an emergency quarterback, maybe the 4th.
I know you.
Which would have been catastrophic, but it would have been kind of interesting to see. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, Sam, random question. We went through this 2 or 3 years ago. If you could field an NFL team of 1 player and 52 clones of that player, who would that player be?
Oh, goodness. On the spot, too. Okay.
So I made this in Madden. I made a Lamar Jackson roster of all Lamar Jacksons, And I said, the O-line's going to suck, but I got Lamar Jackson's everywhere. As long as I can get the ball out, I'll be good. And Madden still made them good enough to actually block. So it was like, okay.
Yeah. How did you do
Lamar
with that
Jackson.
season?
They couldn't catch for their life.
I
many drop deep balls.
I mean, you could just ran, you figured it out.
No, they couldn't run block for their life.
Oh, no.
So they figured it out, but we started like 0-4. Once the development came in, it was like, okay, now they can catch 1 out of 5 or something.
I love that. I do have an answer now, and I feel pretty stupid for not thinking about it right away. It would be Jordan Mailata.
Okay.
Because if you look at his rugby career, I mean, man can move. Listen, there would be some problems, but I feel like you feel pretty good about having him on the D line. Feel good about having him on the O line. I wouldn't mind him being a running back. We would be a very run heavy team, and we would give up a lot of points in the pass.
Yeah.
I said Myles Garrett or Trent Williams, but
I like that. Those are great picks as well.
So the one thing that I didn't even think about with Lamar Jackson that I noticed after I did it, so many sacks. Because I just zero blitz constantly.
Yeah.
You'll block some of them, but you're not blocking all of them, and they're there like
Lamar
that.
Jacksons.
Yeah, but okay, let's get back to this offensive line now. Mailata, he's really jumped up the last couple of years, like to really being this blue chip player. I feel like last year was the first year where it really felt confident that like, okay, he's there now. Like there's not projection here anymore. He's there. Do you think there's much more ceiling for him to go, or do you think that he's kind of at the height of his potential at this point?
He's a unicorn, in the sense that
he has 6 toes.
Does he actually have 6 toes?
I think so.
That's actually really interesting. I didn't know that.
That feels like an unfair advantage.
That is it's like Michael Phelps, like the flip
Extra balance. Maybe, did I make that up?
Sounded believable. All that to say that I think he is still learning the game, to be honest with you. I think that his ceiling is so much higher than what we've seen, which is kind of crazy to say. But if you think about it, he hasn't played football for that long. I mean, he has physical tools. He has the athleticism, the ability. I think there's no reason to say that he couldn't get better and won't get better, to be honest with you.
Okay, then that makes sense. I haven't watched his tape closely enough to feel like I really know that. Now, last question I have on the offensive line. Oh, I know he's got some pipes. Or I guess like comment on the offensive line. I love the Cameron Williams pick for them, just because get him in Stoutland's room, and like I hated his tape at Texas, but the athleticism is clear as day. If you can get him right mentally, golden.
My thing is, if he stayed another year, like he could have been like a 2nd round pick, maybe. If he had more time, he didn't play that many games. I think he played like 14 games total in his college career. So there just wasn't a lot. And what you saw, again, there were some limitations and issues.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hate to even say limitations. It was just like missed assignments and like confusion, which with Stoutland, you feel like there's a good chance that might be able to get fixed. Now, the question I had is a player that I liked a lot, but why did the Eagles draft Drew Kendall when he can't play guard?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it's a little trust the process thing, and I hate saying that because, like, and someone who loves analysis and someone who's really upset with the Sixers, I hate saying trust the process. You got to be a little critical, but what they saw from Drew Kendall, I think that, at worst, he could be a backup center, and at best, they could give him some time to learn and develop the tools. And I think you're right. There are some problems with him playing guard. But I think if anyone can figure it out, again, Stoutland. And that might just be my clear go-to answer every time when I don't know.
I guess, do you think Juergens can play guard?
I do think Juergens can play guard. I mean, he did play guard already.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did.
Yeah, he played that right guard position.
That starts to make some more sense to me then. If someone goes down, and you want to put Juergens at guard, you feel like you could put Kendall at center then and be okay. It's just I had a hard time making a practical reason why you would draft a backup center, because it's just it feels like such a weird thing to do in the league currently.
Sure. And like when you think about it, when Juergens was hurt and Dickerson had to play center, like they had that was the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to be in that situation again, or do you want someone who has like a high floor that you could just throw in at center and feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, I mean, he's a depth piece. Best case scenario, you can try to figure out how to rotate him if he needs to. But I think that depth piece is not a bad thing at all.
No, I mean, the guy's a pit bull, man. Like, I mean, he just wants to kill people. And his dad played in the leagues. He's got the bloodlines. Like, there's a lot to like in Drew Kendall's profile. But let's kick it on over to the defense here. And starting with the D-line, can you just wax poetic for us for a couple minutes about Jalen Carter and how special this dude is?
Yeah, I mean, listen, generational player. I know I've said that a couple times, but Jalen Carter could potentially be the best NFL player in the entire league once he reaches his potential. I just have not seen someone of his caliber in a long time. I mean, it's very Aaron Donald-esque and truly one of the best football prospects ever that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, he was my number one player in that draft class. I desperately wanted the Bears to draft him and said they traded back and gave him to Philly, which
we gave you a 4th round pick.
Yeah, I get it because the Bears are also a dumpster fire who can't really handle someone who doesn't have their P's and Q's lined up. But like, I don't know. I still have a little heartburn over that as much as I love Darnell Wright. Like, it's just, that dude is so special. But Jordan Davis next to him. Has he been a disappointment to this point in his career? And do you expect him to kind of break out some, or do you feel like he did break out some last year?
I wouldn't say disappointment. I think there have been disappointing opportunities. Moments. And he really hasn't put himself in a position to, take advantage of his size and of what he could be in this league, especially as a first rounder. And I can see why disappointment is a fair categorization for his career so far. But I like to believe that everything that he said and people have said about his conditioning and improving and him wanting to get better and be on the field, I like to buy into that hype a little bit. I know the thing is, as you guys know, during training camp, during the offseason, every team is the best version of themselves. They're all going to win the Super Bowl, and there's all these
best year of their life.
Exactly. So I think that basically I'd like to believe his conditioning to get better. I think he does well when he's on the field. He takes up space. He's a really good at taking up space and moving guys. He does have some issues on his conditioning is a problem. I mean, you need to be able to have him on the field often, and they probably won't play him much in passing downs. You won't see him much on 3rd and long. Like, that's not going to change. But I do think he could maximize the opportunities he is on the field. These 1st and 10s, these 2nd and long or 2nd and short. There's going to be situations where you're going to see him on the field, and you see him hopefully make an impact, and you'll see his conditioning, if it improves the way it's supposed to and the way it's been projected. I do think he can break out. I think that's fair to say. And what a breakout looks for him isn't necessarily in sacks, right? I would be really happy if he could keep taking on people and try to make it easier for Carter or the other defensive linemen to get to, the quarterback and even in the run game. And he's very good in the run game. So that's his strength. So if he does what he does in the run game now, I mean, you're fine with it. But if you can get him a little bit better in the pass game, you feel great.
I mean, from my point of view of what I've seen from Vic Fangio defenses back when he was with the Bears and with other teams, what I've seen of it, I would expect him to put Davis head on over the center and say, you need to commit another man because this guy's going to destroy your center. And then you play Carter and you play the edge rushers off of that from wider alignments. But I mean, was that what happened last year? I feel like I just didn't see him in the field that much.
Yeah, no, not really. And in fact, they were having him play a little bit of 3-tech. Like, it's a little bit weird. And they had Carter at 1. So it's interesting. And honestly, I love that there's some versatility and you can play them around a little bit. And I trust Fangio to come up with the best utilization of these guys. I think at this point, I implicitly trust him. And that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, he's he's the genius. Like I can't blame you one bit there. Now, what type of snap counts do you expect Moro Jomo to see in this defense versus like a Ty Robinson coming in there? Do you expect either of their snap counts to rival Jordan Davis?
Yeah, I think Moro Jomo probably will play the most out of the defensive tackle rotation. I feel like he's and I think he's going to take on that Milton Williams role a little bit more. And I'm not saying he'll play as many snaps as Milton Williams, because it even took Milton Williams a while to get to the snap count he got to. And that just may be kind of how the rotation worked out when he was there. But I do think some of those snaps are going to be taken by Moro Jomo, who's going to have similar efficiency to Milton Williams, but not to the same level. I mean, it'll probably be like, if he can get like 70% of the production of Milton Williams, you feel really, really good about it.
Yeah. Now, has there ever been an answer as to why Moro Jomo fell to the 7th round or whatever it was in that draft? Because I had a 4th round grade on him, and I feel like he's lived up to that.
Yeah, I think it was injury. I think there was like this. Yeah. I do kind of remember it was like he either had like two. I'm conflating his story with Jordan Hicks, which again was a while back before that. But I remember Jordan Hicks fell also because of injuries, and I'm trying to remember if it was the ACL injuries or there was some injury that he had that was repeated, and that was the reason he fell.
Okay, now with this depth, I mean, I feel like we talked a little bit about pre-show. I feel like Fangio, if he's running anything similar to what I saw him running with the Bears, it's a lot of 2 defensive tackle sets, really, where like you're not asking because you only got 2 guys in the field at a time. You're not talking about a general 3-4 like you used to see more of.
Sure,
having 4, maybe 5 guys is doable when you're playing that much 2 defensive tackle, but do you see many concerns with like the depth of Thomas Booker and Byron Young and Gabe Hall and Ty Robinson there?
So yes and no. Ty Robinson's obviously unproven, but I think he could probably start on a bad team and do pretty well. Obviously, I think he needs some development. What's interesting about Ty Robinson is you could also play him on the edge, which is an interest. I know it's talked about a little bit. But his versatility is nice, and I think he'll be a game wrecker once he develops, and maybe that'll just be a rotational piece, but I think there's a lot of value in that. I know the Eagles love Booker. I know that they really like him and think he can step in. But to be honest with you, if he's playing more than like 6 snaps a game, I think it's like, I don't really love that. It doesn't elevate your defensive line. As for Byron Young, I still think that whichever team drafted Byron Young drafted the wrong Byron Young. I think the Raiders and Rams. I know that was so.
That's why there's the period after his name to make sure it pulled in on the VLOOKUP to the right guy.
It's hilarious. I really do believe that they picked the wrong Byron Young.
Me too. I definitely think so.
But listen. The depth concerns are valid. I don't know too much about Gabe Hall. I don't know how he'll fare.
Baylor Bear, athletic freak.
There you
Not
go.
very good at football, but he can jump out of the stadium.
They love
college.
They love athletic freaks, so that makes sense that he's part of the team. But I'm not as familiar with his game, so I'm not going to necessarily comment on it. But I will say that if he makes the team, I mean, there's a reason he makes the team. So
yeah. And then so at edge, you guys got Nolan Smith coming back, who. I mean, I think Nolan Smith is a dream fit for a Fangio defense. I remember watching his tape and feeling like this is miniature Khalil Mack, like with just his play style. It felt so similar.
Sure.
But Jalix Hunt jumping into a starting role. How do you feel about him going into this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, both of those guys got hot at the right time. I mean, they both had incredible playoff performances. And, you feel pretty good about letting the young guys kind of run a little bit. I mean, losing Josh Sweat, you don't feel necessarily great about that part because, I mean, Josh Sweat did really well, especially during the playoffs as well. But I think what we saw from Nolan Smith and particularly Jalix Hunt, who is a guy that, when he was drafted, I didn't expect him to see the field for at least a year. Like I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he saw the field as much as he did, and even more pleasantly surprised how he performed when he saw the field. So I feel pretty good about those guys. As far as the other guys, like I think Uche is going to have potentially a role. I think Azeez Ojulari more likely is going to have a role. And honestly, APR, the rookie out of Virginia Tech, could easily get some playing time. I don't think he'll get a lot, and it'd probably be, just to give the guys a little bit of a break. But I'm interested to see how he plays in the training camp and for preseason.
Yeah, I do like the way they attacked it with Ojulari and Uche, because those are both guys who, when they're healthy, they can get after the passer. Like, I don't know how much they can play the run, how much you can ask them to really set a hard edge, but like, that they can do that one thing well in the rotation that you might be asking them to play.
Absolutely.
At linebacker, I mean, was last year repeatable for Zach Bond?
Yeah, I think it is. Maybe, it's he had like an all-pro season, so it's hard to say that that's repeatable. But I think in terms of how he played and what he's capable of, it's certainly repeatable. Will he 100% get as, much recognition and I think that people will attack the defense differently because of how well he played, which will create value. I don't know if his stat line would necessarily be the same. And again, linebacker stats are kind of tough to, say that this linebacker is really good besides tackles. Like, it's like hard to define what is a good linebacker.
I mean, if you even try to use PFF grades, they're so different. For like, Roquan Smith was like a terribly graded linebacker for so long. And I was watching him. I'm like, Roquan is not bad. Yeah, Roquan is very good.
There's some positions that they just have not figured out how to, best quantify them, unfortunately. And that's an example of one.
Which it's hard to do. I get it. I mean, I try to make grades for offensive linemen, and they're wrong a lot of the time. Like, that's just a hard thing to do.
Offensive line is probably the hardest one to do, honestly.
So beyond Bond at linebacker, Nakobe Dean, was it a torn ACL for him? Or was it something different?
I'm kind of blank. I know it might have been his quad.
Here, I can find out. So it was a torn patellar tendon in his left knee. That's
still not great.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to miss time this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%.
But so behind him, I figured Jihad Campbell, first-round draft pick, would be slotting into that spot. But you mentioned that he might not be ready, which I wasn't even aware of an injury. Or were you saying just mentally?
No, injury. Yeah, he had the surgery, so I don't know if he'll be ready yet either. But and that's it does create somewhat of an issue. But you have Smile Mondin and you have Jeremiah Trotter, who could easily step up. And look, what you're getting out of those guys, Smile is a little bit, who knows? I mean, I liked his tape.
Really? What did you like about his tape? Because I watched his tape trying to find it, and I just felt like I was watching a free safety who was just like it was doing his job, but never stood out to me. So like, as you're more of a quarterback guy in general, so you probably see some more of the subtleties than I do. What did you like about his tape?
I think I liked exactly what you just said. I mean, to me, he looked like a safety too, and I just loved he can move. His movement was good, and look, he wasn't making always the best directions. There was a lot of wasted movement, but I see a moldable piece.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, his athletic numbers were also ridiculous, and for me, I don't mind having a smaller, and he's not smaller, but what I'm saying is I would take a smaller, more athletic linebacker sometimes than a guy that's built like a brick wall.
Well, Jeremiah Trotter's a bit of a brick wall.
And he moves like a brick wall.
Yeah,
for sure.
But he's got strong instincts. I will always give him that. He knows what he's looking at and he reacts quickly.
If he has to play, he will be there. They will target him specifically, unfortunately. I mean, I do think he has really good football IQ and, like you said, really good instincts. But just because you know where to be and when to be there doesn't mean you can always get there.
Yeah, that's fair. And then to the cornerback room, I mean, I felt like it's fair to put Quinyon Mithcell in the blue chip territory at this point, just because he was that caliber player coming out. I think we all felt that way. It was just proving the jump in competition, and he proved it. Like, physically, he had that. But I wavered a little. I thought about doing it with Cooper DeJean, but I ended up pulling that back because I think that he is a little scheme specific and very valuable in this scheme, but I'm not sure he'd be the same caliber player in a different scheme, which is kind of one of the things I look at when I'm calling a guy a blue chip.
I think that's totally valid. And I think that he is elevated by the scheme, but I do think his natural ability and honestly instincts and football IQ are just as good as anybody else in the league.
Yeah, very strong. I agree with that. But looking at the potential weak spot in this cornerback room is Kelly Ringo. How are you feeling about Ringo going into this year?
You know, he has his strengths and weaknesses, but I don't think it's going to be easy to replace Slay. I think people don't appreciate how much Slay did for the team last year. He was a big part of it, and even though he wasn't Quinyon Mithcell or Cooper DeJean, everyone was excited about those guys, and fans got a little frustrated with Slay at some points during his career. But he is going to be a tough part to replace. He really is. Ringo is limited in some capacities, particularly in like lateral quickness. He struggles there a little bit, but he's physical. He has a pretty good size. So there are ways you can kind of mitigate some of his weaknesses and kind of elevate his strengths, and you feel pretty good about it. One of the ways that you could do it is, when they're running cover 6, you can run the safety towards him and make him have a little support, make him run the cloud coverage, and you feel pretty good about that. And then you run the cover 4 side to Quinyon Mithcell, and I think that's probably what you'll see a lot of half shells to his side.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Now, how does that? And this is probably getting a little in the weeds, but like, when you're talking about the match quarters and the match 6 that Fangio runs, how do you feel about those lateral limitations that he might have when playing those match coverages?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be challenges, and when they get into those situations, I think teams can take advantage of it, and they'll get some opportunities, and they'll get some licks against them for sure. I do think that I would assume Fangio would have something in there to help mitigate that. And I'm not entirely sure how or what he would do, but I imagine if consistently he's being attacked on, routes that require lateral quickness, they'll either bring a linebacker up or down, or they'll do something to help bracket that player if they expect a matchup to be really challenging.
And hopefully that's not Jeremiah Trotter. That's not
Exactly.
I was kind of surprised that Dory Jackson isn't starting over Ringo, to be honest. I mean, I know he's had injury issues, but I feel like he's been a solid corner in the league for a while.
Yeah. Listen, I could 100% see that being the case. And when they signed him, I kind of thought that was what's going to happen. But everything I've heard is that they really like Ringo and they want to see what they got. Now, let's say Ringo does terribly. Dory Jackson probably slots in there, and you feel okay about it.
Well, Jay's Kelly Ringo's #1 fan, so.
Yeah?
No. Thought he was so overrated coming out of college just because of the pick 6 of the national championship.
Sure.
But let's take a look at safety before getting to some wrap-up thoughts here. But
sure.
So the depth charts all had Sidney Brown in there. Our initial graphic, I ended up putting in Makuba on your suggestion. And I mean, hey, I had a first-round grade on Andrew Makuba. I get that. But why do you think he's going to take this job that Sidney Brown is currently slotted in for on the depth charts that are out there? Very unofficial, but.
Before I answer that, can you tell me why you had a first-round grade on Makuba?
Just instincts, man. He just sees the game the way that it's supposed to be seen from that position. And he's probably going to get hurt at some point because he throws his body around, but the guy played a ton of nickel corner. The guy's played some outside corner, and he's got good free safety instincts. Like those three combined, the possibilities are limitless.
And you know who loves that?
Vic Fangio.
All those things. That is Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio likes smaller safeties too. He likes guys that have great instincts. I mean, he fits everything Fangio wants. Sidney Brown, on the other case, they're not from what I understand, they're not a huge fan of him, and you can kind of see that. They put in, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. They and that should show you something. The other safety that they had last year over him on multiple occasions. And I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. But either way,
Gardner Johnson?
No. It was McCullough. I think Tristan McCullum is who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
They put him in over Sidney Brown multiple times. And Sidney Brown also has that same killer instinct as Makuba, but he's reckless. I mean,
everyone wanted to compare him to Troy Polamalu coming out. I remember that.
But Troy Polamalu was selective when he was aggressive. And when he was, he was, right? Like 100%. But I remember distinctly there was a play where Sidney Brown took out his own teammate. There's just things like that. He just runs first, asks questions later. And like some people love that. But I do think it could be detrimental to the team. And I do think that there are issues and they're trying to figure out where he fits and how he fits. I'm not saying Sidney Brown's a bad player. I think Makuba is exactly what Fangio wants. I think it was 100% a Fangio pick. I didn't love the pick at first, by the way, which is why one of the reasons I was asking you about that. And again, maybe I was a little biased because, Penn State guy was still there that I really liked in Winston.
He's a beast.
But at the same time, when I thought about it, it really makes sense that Makuba is their guy. And even though, the depth chart could start out exactly how you've predicted, I do think Makuba will be the guy by the end of the year. And I don't have much doubt in that.
So I have a proposition of what the Eagles should do in this scenario. They should trade Sidney Brown to the Bengals so he can play with his twin brother and he can be good again, because twins have magic powers when they're together and they're broken when they're separated.
Everyone knows this. That's true. That should 100% be a thing. What would be his draft compensation, or what would you look for in that trade?
Oh boy, I don't know. Based on the selling that I've heard here, a 5th round pick.
Yeah, I think the Eagles would take a 5th round pick and feel pretty good about it.
If it's the Bengals, you'll probably place them for like a first and Mark Chase.
But no guaranteed money.
No
guaranteed. That is one of the worst.
Won't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, I don't even understand that front office.
What do they think? This is the NBA? You don't get money here.
I actually find it hysterical because Duke Tobin runs the Bengals front office, right?
Mm-hmm.
His dad, I believe, Vince Tobin, came up through the Bears under George Halas, who was notoriously cheap, and his negotiating tactics were to insult players. He told George Halas told Jim McMahon that he was a undersized punk QB with bad eyes because he had like vision issues, and then he threw the contract at him, and Jim McMahon was like, "I'm not signing that," and walked out of the office. But like, I feel every time I see these issues with the Bengals, I'm like, it's just George Halas.
Honestly, that's actually such interesting information that I did not know, and it maybe could explain a little bit of how they got this way.
The negotiation tactics. But
sure.
Anyways, Reed Blankenship, I feel like he's really blossomed into a really quality player after, he was a mid-round draft pick, but he really shined in the Senior Bowl. Undrafted. Okay. I thought he at least went in the mid-round. He's really become something there. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like he's a really strong split safety option for you guys that really gives you that versatility to be able to run different coverages.
100%. Yeah. I am very impressed with Blankenship. I think he obviously exceeded all expectations, but he does his role really well. And, I think he's a good safety in the league, and it's good.
All right, Jay, where are we going with these bets, these thoughts? What are you thinking?
All right. So when you look at the win total, we're sit at 10.5 minus 165, under 10.5 plus 140, playoffs minus 385, missing the playoffs plus 285. Winning the division at minus 135 and Super Bowl at 750. I don't see a flaw here. I'm thinking 17-0. I'm thinking Super Bowl, NFC East repeat champs
for the first time in 20 years or whatever, 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know why they can't go 17-0. You have a top 30 quarterback. You have the best running back in the league. You have two of the best tackles. Maybe the best wide receiver, 1 and 2 wide receiver in the league. Solid defense. Nick Sirianni, hell of a coach. Signed him to a lifetime contract. So yeah, I don't see where this could go wrong. Super Bowl or bust.
Hey, love it.
Sam, Where do you see value on these bets here? If you're a betting man, if not, just say so, and we'll nix it.
So here's the thing about betting. When I worked for Penn State football, I wasn't able to bet for the longest time, so I never got into it. That doesn't mean I can't comment about what these are at, because I do think that, I do think they'll probably be above on the wins. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think superstition aside, I think they have a really good chance of winning the NFC East. So I feel pretty good about those kind of bets. I don't know if 17-0 is quite possible. That would be incredible. I did prepare.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. I agree. Exactly. And look, saying Super Bowl or bust last year was such a fun thing to say, and I'm so happy it came true. But some teams rebuild. This team is reloading, and I'm excited to see the journey. And I do think the journey will be more than 10 wins. I do think they'll make the playoffs, and I do think they have a good chance of winning the NFC East.
Jalen Hurts, top 5 quarterback in the NFC East.
That is true. That is
out. Yeah. Who's the biggest threat for the division?
The Washington Commanders. I think that's the easy answer. I think it's. You don't agree, Jay?
No, I don't agree.
I'd love to hear your opinion.
We're about to get to Washington here in a second. I think they got really, really lucky last year in a few games. I expect Jaden Daniels to have a little bit of regression.
Sure.
The Terry McLaurin situation worries me. I don't think they're going to be able to consistently run the ball unless Jaden Daniels is making it happen on his feet. I don't trust Dan Quinn in big games. A lot of reasons. I love the under for Washington this year. I think they're 7-10 football team. If I was a Philadelphia fan, I'd be worried about the Cowboys. Dak has absolutely owned the division since he's been there. 33-8, 9-4 versus the Eagles, 11-2 versus the Commanders, 13-2 versus the Giants. They were beat up last year. They're going to get healthy, but they have a bunch of doofuses as running things down there. So you have that going for you. Probably be a more structured, well-ran organization. But a lot of talent coming back and they were hurt last year. Pickens coming in. I feel like that's either going to be boom or bust for them. So, I mean, to me, it's Philly and Dallas, and maybe I think Giants are sneaky. Could be sneaky good. I think they could get up there to 8 or 9.
Their D-line is nasty.
I don't know if they'll compete for the division, but let's say
they
Dallas.
Games.
If Dallas and Philly have a couple of injuries, and like a 9-8 team wins the division, I think the Giants could be right there in it with them. But if the team that wins the division wins over 10 games, which historically is what we've seen, kind of that 11-6, 12-5 sort of range, I think it's Philly and Dallas.
So one other thing I'll say that I think is interesting: Commanders are the oldest team in the NFL, so even though they have a rookie quarterback, their win window with who they have right now, it's not great. They're gonna have to do a soft rebuild, I think, at some point very soon, just because of how old these guys are. But because of that, I think they're going to be more all in, and whether that actually shows up on the football field or not, that's kind of why I think there'll be a problem, or could be a problem. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to have a regression. My concern with Jaden Daniels is what we saw early on in the season. I think he could get hurt very easily. I think he puts himself in some tough positions, and I don't love his frame. And so I do have concerns about that. And if that's the case, then take the Commanders out of it. I do think Dallas could be a challenge, but I don't think that they have a competent organization. Like you said, I don't think their head coach, I don't trust that being a good situation.
He wasn't a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, so that's a weird elevation. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball well. I think Dak Prescott is one of the most underrated and one of the best quarterbacks.
See, that's where me and Q have been talking about it this summer. What they've done with that offensive line, I think they're going to be able to run the ball very well.
Well,
I think they might have.
But who's running the ball?
Yeah, I think Pookie Williams still got some juice in him. Blue might be able to get it done. I don't know. Shit.
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders. Yeah. Miles Sanders go out there and rush 1,400 yards. Why not? I mean, I think if any of those running backs are competent, they're going to be able to run the piss out of the football. I mean,
Look,
I think their O-line might be top 5 in the league, run blocking O-line.
Totally possible, but I think they're going to be limited by the personnel that they have in the backfield.
Which could be true.
5 years ago.
I think one of them gets it done.
5 years ago, would that have been a concern for you?
Which part?
The running back part. Who's running the football?
For
5
Dallas?
years ago. I feel like there's been a shift in the NFL in the last 2 years where running backs have really started to matter again for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but 5 years ago, that wouldn't even been a question. It would have been just, it's a committee. It's fine. We have the blockers.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think there is a resurgence on running back value, and I'm for it.
I think the difference is we are just seeing great running backs on great teams.
Sure.
Which for the longest time we didn't. And then all of a sudden you put a Saquon Barkley on a team like the Eagles. You're like, oh shit, running backs matter again. And it's like, no. You put Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers. You put Saquon Barkley on the Eagles. You put Derrick Henry on the Ravens.
Good teams are investing in good running backs.
Yeah.
Which is like you said, that's the shift.
Yeah.
But it's also the teams are recognizing it, which means that the fans are recognizing it.
Yeah,
also,
but a bad team like the Giants taking Saquon when they did. He didn't do nothing for that franchise.
No. I mean, he sold a lot of jerseys for sure.
Does your running back matter more when you're facing more too high?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think that the league has shifted towards that for sure.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking through, we went through the Legion of Boom stage that went all cover 3 everywhere. And now we're shifting back to the too high. And before Legion of Boom, we were in big too high stage against, the Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's at their prime. It was a very stop the pass league. And then it shifted, and now it's shifted back. And I'm almost wondering if that's where it comes from, because when you have fewer guys in the box, you're having the running back who can maximize that in those moments matters more when you're getting those moments more.
Yeah, I mean, look, the league is a passing league, but when you adjust for a passing league, I mean, there are going to be, some shifts that shift in the other direction. And I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I would want to run the ball against too high as much as I can and keep them honest and then hit them with play action. I mean, there are things that you want to do and create. And I think you can create that with a rushing attack that you haven't been able to necessarily create in the past.
Interesting stuff. But Sam, we'll let you get out of here. Can you tell everyone one more time where they can find your work?
Sounds good. So you can find me on Inside the Birds. I have a segment called Inside the Data. You can find me also with Eagles Eric on the Eagles Edge. Find me on Twitter, Sam_Finkel. You can find me. I also do some, if you're interested in the NIL stuff, I do a lot of writing about that for my firm. I also appear on a podcast breaking down sports law, particularly about college with John Gross. That one's through Pack Hub. It's called Around the Huddle. So hopefully I'll be able to do some more stuff with you guys because I have a blast every time. So
Texas Tech loves NIL.
Yes,
that we did that. They did. Well, I think there's one thing left to say, and that's ELGSES Eagles.
Thank you, Mayor Parker. I appreciate that.
All right, take it easy, Sam. Thanks for jumping on with us.
I'll be in Philly week 1.
Yeah, you going to the game?
No. I would just be in Philly.
The tickets were ridiculous. I wanted to go to that game, but it was like $700 for tickets.
Yeah, actually, I think I might technically be in New York for that game, but I'll be in Philly for week 1 of NFL.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, you should come out with us, Sam. We'll
I would love to.
We'll get some drinks and stuff, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely let me know. I'd love to.
All right. Take it easy, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys.